Hello and welcome to 7 Minutes of Science, your weekly high-speed rundown of the week's top science stories, brought to you by me, Eddie Edwards, here from Mission Acceptable. So, without further ado, let's put some 7 minutes on the clock and have this week's top stories. MS Weiss and O'Brony Man published in the journal Nature this week that due to global warming, soon fish from the Atlantic could be in the Pacific and vice versa. See, basically, due to global warming, certain climates that would be closed off to certain species are now becoming available. As people can move up mountains because the tops aren't as cold anymore. The areas where there are ice that would stop plants from growing, they can now move to. One of the side effects of this, though, is that the Arctic Sea is getting warmer. This is normally too cold for most fish species to go through. But now, certain fish species in the next century could be able to go up and through and down into the Pacific, or from the Pacific and down into the Atlantic. This could be good news. Some of these are commercial species, things like cod, which could come across into the Pacific from the Atlantic, giving more fishing opportunities to span out. But cod is also an apex predator. It's also top of the food chain, like the thing from Species. But yeah, it's top of the food chain, so what will happen when it gets into the Pacific, we don't know. But interesting news from climate change, not necessarily bad or good, which is an unusual one. So, cheers for that. Slightly strange environmental news coming out of Australia, in which we support the ongoing attempts to kill a bunch of animals. Yes, that's right, we're talking about cane toads. Cane toads were originally introduced to Australia back in the 1930s from South America. They are bastards. They were introduced to try and control the cane beetle, which was eating sugarcane, and they have just run roughshod over everything else. Horrible creatures. Loads of them. In Australia's kind of open season. If you're a young kid and you torture animals and you want to do that thing, move to Australia. People will be fine if you're doing it to cane toads. So, new research has suggested that they're going to try and expand into more territories. Thing is, they like wet environments, and most of Australia, as I'm guessing you're aware, is arid and poison-soaked and death-filled. So, somebody's come up with a new way of building fences around irrigation areas where the cane toads will just approach and die in their droves on the fence. And this reduces it by like 90% the amount of cane toads that are present. This is work done by the University of New South Wales, and particularly Professor Mike Lechnick, the lead author. So, yeah, cane toads, they're on the run. News that takes climate change out of the world of prediction and into the world of just pattern recognition now. Turns out there was a lot more carbon in the atmosphere back in the Pleistocene era. About the same that there is now, actually, between 350 and 450 parts per million. I can't remember the exact measurement. We're on about 400 now, that's what you need to know. And it was several degrees hotter. This has been proven not only from archaeological evidence from fossilised plankton, but also from gas found in bubbles in ice cores drilled from the polar region. Like I say, this is no longer predictive science. This is now something that has happened. We have the data of what was going on when it happened, and we now know that it's definitely going to happen again. This isn't new, obviously. We've known for some time that climate change is just a thing that's happening. But really, for me, if you're a climate change denier, you're probably not watching this show. But if you are, you can't keep on doing it. If you accept that dinosaurs... Oh, God, I was going to say, if you accept that dinosaurs are real, then you have to accept that climate change is real. But there's people out there who don't accept the dinosaur thing, isn't there? I hate this planet. News from Karina Tarnita of the Princeton University, and she has discovered that termites are helping the environment. Not the ones you find in your house, the ones that live in the big mounds that stick out the ground. Crazy thing about that, that's just sort of a ventilation chimney for the main thing, which is completely underground. That fills with water, irrigates the landscape, and around these mounds you end up with these little pockets of vegetation across the landscape, which is kind of holding back the effects of climate change, because those particular little patches are not as arid as they necessarily should be. Now, is this good? On the one hand, yes, it is. It's less climate change. It's more environment being preserved. That's kind of a good thing. The bad thing is it makes it difficult for us to predict how this is going. What if there's a tipping point where it wipes out the termites and suddenly this entire environment is gone? Very tricky work to do. But this was published in Science, in the journal Science, and it's exciting and interesting stuff. And I'm always trying, as I always say, more information about things that are trying to kill you can never be bad. Language is what separates us from the animals, except maybe it's not. A recent study published by the University of York lead scientist Simon Townsend has released that seems to indicate that chimps have language. Basically, how this worked was some chimps that had been transferred from a Dutch zoo to a Scottish zoo changed the calls that they made over a period of time. Here's what a chimp that had just arrived in the Scottish zoo sounded like. Here is the same chimp 3 years later. Now you can see there is a noticeable difference in tone, but it's not just that. That change in tone matches the tone used by the Scottish chimps. That's the chimps that you find in Scotland, just not me as an Englishman naturally referring to the Scottish people in that way. Scientists working on the Max Planck satellite have concluded that the universe's stars are probably a little bit younger than we thought. For those that don't know, it's considered to be about 42 million years after the Big Bang that stars first formed. This new data from the Max Planck Institute from background readings in the cosmic background radiation seem to indicate that actually this happened probably about 13 million years later, about 560 million years after the universe got started. There's a difference of 130 million years, you know, but in the understanding of the cosmos, which is billions of years old, is that a big deal? Yes, yes it is. Getting a better understanding of everything that happened immediately after the Big Bang to having a universe is kind of the point of physics, and the fact that this was later than originally thought means that some calculations, some modelling, some various different things were a little bit off, and that raises more questions than it answers, and that's what I like about this story. It's a little bit confusing, a little bit weird, and it also throws off my own predictions of how old the oldest species in the universe could be. I think it's probably the shadows. And finally, I just wanted to share with everyone this little picture. This is a picture of Pluto and Charon, its largest moon. You can tell it's one of the last planets to be discovered. Not a planet anymore. Jesus. Anyway, this is taken by the New Horizons probe, which is on its way to Pluto. Should be getting there relatively soon. It's been on its way for a long time, so long that Pluto was a planet, then not a planet, then a dwarf planet. So the guy who discovered this is an American who was actually alive up until 1997, so he nearly got to see this, which was insane. But yeah, that's Pluto and its largest moon. I wanted to share that. I thought it was kind of cool and kind of weird. So we'll be there soon getting scientific data, and you can see more coverage of that here. Thank you very much for watching another week of 7 Minutes of Science. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you do, please give the subscribe button a click, give the like button a click, share us, or comment anything. Just interact with me, please. Tell me about your science stories. I want to hear them. Tell me if there's something weird you think I should talk about. It's all information, and it saves me from doing work. So, once again, thank you very much for watching 7 Minutes of Science. I'm your host, Eddie Edwards, and good luck in your endeavours.
Endeavours be good. Goodbye.